Welcome, welcome.
Becky, what's happening?
I'm very excited today.
You have a special smile about you.
I do, because I have never met our guest before. I've known her for 5 minutes now, and I just immediately I did creep on her Instagram, and I instantly loved her, and she just has such a good energy and vibrancy and goodness about her. And we're talking about online strategy and digital strategy today, which we love. So I am so excited to introduce to our community Dana Snyder. Based out of Atlanta. She is an entrepreneur, a digital strategist, founder and CEO of Positive Equation and Her Desk, lowercase, Her Desk, which we will get into the branding on that because I want to know more about it.
Intentionality.
And she is just a passionate and conscious consumer that is really helping nonprofits and purpose-driven businesses cultivate these online movements of passionate believers, donors, partners, and advocates through their social media. So if you're here today saying, okay, I understand that I need to be in the social media space and bringing a more authentic view, but I don't know how, and I don't know where to go, and I don't know where to start, Dana is going to bring the hype today, and I'm really excited about it. So just a couple more things because I think it's amazing. I just want to name drop. This is the name drop portion of our bio because I love it. She's worked with awesome organizations like Movember, Dress for Success, American Idol,
Honest Company. I love them.
The Honest Company. Yeah. I mean, we could probably sit there and talk about that for a while. And she is also a member of the Purpose Collaborative, which is an invitation-only global group of 40-plus boutique firms that are all subject matter experts and passionate about social purpose. So I think we're in
she's
for
our
like,
people,
yeah, she's our people, and we're about to have a really robust discussion. Dana, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. You guys just make me, I'm going to have like a hurt smile from laughing so much.
That's our job, is to bring more fine lines to women's faces on the show. Sorry.
And men too, we don't disparage.
Yes. So I am really curious how you got into this space and your career path. So can you kind of connect the dots for our listeners and just tell them how you got to be in this position?
Totally. So definitely serendipity. So I graduated from the University of Central Florida in 2010. And ironically, social media back then wasn't nearly what it is now. So I literally grew up as social media was growing up. And I think that was just a beautiful parallel happening. And I grew interested as it was figuring itself out. And so I started, my first job ever out of college was working for a nonprofit. So I worked for a nonprofit for about 2.5 years, team of 4. So I think it helped me a lot to understand and do a multitude of roles and understand what a small team does with a small budget. And so I understood that very well. And then I had this keen desire to move to New York City. That was like my dream, was to walk the streets of New York with like stilettos,
really
in
dreamy.
a briefcase, and AKA no one wears high heels walking through New York.
Sex in the City, you lied to us.
You walk so many blocks and avenues that you're in sneakers with like your skirt, and then you change into your heels like under your desk. So it never happens. But I moved to New York and I did the for-profit thing, like you mentioned, the Honest Company, the USO, Fox Sports, multitude of amazing for-profit companies, working for a PR firm and digital company. And then after about like 4.5 years or so, I just had that like need to get back to working for companies that had a purpose and that I felt really needed the help. Yeah. And they needed an expert, not an intern, to help them build out their strategies. So they needed somebody more experienced to help mentor them and educate them. And so in 2017, in April 2017, I was pacing outside of our office on 5th Avenue. And I walked up and I told my boss, I'm quitting. And she goes, "Where are you going?" And I was like, "I'm starting my own company." And she says, "Oh, do you have clients?" And I said, "No."
I feel like this is the end of Devil Wears Prada. You throw the phone in the fountain and storm off, right?
And that's what started Positive Equation, was right then at that moment. I was like, I just feel like I can do it. I know enough people. Hopefully they'll just open the doors. And that was almost 4 years ago now.
We
Go
love
you.
stories of
Yeah.
great leaps of faith like that. Go
We
entrepreneurs.
love entrepreneurs. We love founders. Just the mindset is just different. And I think you call out a really good point, because we always default in nonprofit. We're always trying to save money, but we're not saving ourselves money when we are giving our strategy to an intern. Clearly that is not helpful to us. How much time are we wasting and money are we wasting getting redirected into the wrong spaces?
Well, often what happens with social media, and this is the bad misnomer, right, is that social media doesn't work. No, it doesn't work because there's not a properly aligned strategy that directly aligns with your business goals. So if you don't have those two things connected, and if the senior leadership doesn't understand how to connect to the digital lead, and the digital lead doesn't know how to ask the right questions to understand the business goals, then of course, yes, social media won't work for you. So it's really that's what I try and be, that connector between those two people, and say, okay, how can we bridge that gap and create something really impactful and meaningful for you?
I love that.
And it was a great quote too, to respond to your head of your board or your CEO who says, don't spend any time on that. We can't control the message. That is the correct response to have to something like that.
Absolutely. So let's jump fully into this topic. I know one of your passions is seeing nonprofits just thrive in the online space. You named your company Positive Equation probably for a reason. Will you kind of talk us through what is this Positive Equation piece?
So it's actually a really funny story. I was living in New York City at the time, and I would take the subway back and forth to work, or anywhere really. And I still have the note. I opened up a notepad in my phone, and I was just like, what do I want my company to be called? And so I wrote down literally all these different words, like tons of words. And at the end of it, I was like, what resonates? What's in common with all of these words? And I was like, well, they're positive. They're all positive words. And then I thought about social media, and I was like writing words about social media. And I was like, well, you need this, and you need this, and you need this. And I was like, well, if you add things up, that's an equation. And then literally it was like positive equation ? In my notes.
And then Dana immediately is going in to see what the URL availity is.
Right.
How do we brand
like a good marketer?
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. That was it. And then and the logo is still the same logo that I came up with 4 years ago.
I love that. And I love that you can start all your stories when I was traveling in a subway in New York City. Like, I really wish I had that. Mine,
I don't know. I've seen some stuff in New York City subways. You see all
not
things
nearly as glamorous.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
No.
I think a lot of nonprofits they're coming out of 2020. For some of them, it's their first foray into virtualness, to virtual events, to virtual meetups. How should they be transitioning themselves as sort of a digital first organization? And where's a good place to start with something like that?
I love this question. And the first thing that's often the hardest is invest. You have to put together a budget line item for digital and social and web needs consistently. If you're not investing in that area, it's not going to grow. And then within that budget area is you need to hire. And not just hire someone who understands that, but you need to invest in that hire. And I have a blog post that I put together about a 5-item checklist when hiring a digital or social media marketer. And they need to be able to tell you what tools and resources they need to be successful. And that's one of the interview questions that should be asked. So to be digital first is you have to give yourself some budget room, hire someone to manage it for you, because you're going to probably get frustrated if that's not and everybody has different skill sets, and that's awesome. And so find somebody that can be the rock star for you in that area. And then I think what's been really interesting also in this virtual age, and actually it's sad that it had to happen in the way of a pandemic, but this movement was happening anyways.
Yeah.
This shift was happening anyways for nonprofits. This was kind of just a really big wake up call that we had to take action right away instead of it being more gradual. But your website and your social channels right now are your storefronts, right? Like people aren't going to your offices. A lot of times we're not out doing community volunteer work right now. So the first place an individual, a supporter, a board of director, a sponsor, anyone who's interested in supporting you is going to go is your website and or your social channels. So if those aren't updated and properly reflecting right from the get-go, right? Can I tell what their mission is? What's their impact, their relevant impact? I see a lot of websites that say, since 1989, we have done X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, that's great.
What a lead in.
It's my storytelling Achilles. I'm like, please don't. We all go to sleep when you start mentioning the date at the very beginning of your story.
Yeah, I'm like, what did you do last year? Right? What do you want to do this year? And then there's often not an easy way, which this seems so backwards. It's often really difficult to donate on nonprofits' websites.
Yeah.
It's a long form. It's daunting. You're asking me for a bazillion questions. If I see it's not mobile friendly.
If you compare to checking out at Amazon, right? Which my kids ordered batteries from my phone, which I'm like, is it that easy now? Like it doesn't even. So compare the two, you know? I love what you're saying though.
Yes, I love that. I mean, but that's what we're accustomed to.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's taking a step back sometimes, and we want to move so fast. But it's those foundational aspects of, is your website right? I just did this the other day where I went through a website, and I'm tech savvy, and I was doing a live audit with someone on a screen share. And I was like, I can't find your mission statement. And if I can't find your mission statement within the first 30 seconds, then there's a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So those would kind of be my core three that I would say, step back and really make sure that you're investing, you're hiring when you can, even if it's part-time, maybe it doesn't have to be full-time, but the goal is, and what I hope that people start to see within nonprofits is when you do invest in the right person and you give them the right tools and resources and creativity, they're going to be making you so much more extra funds that they can become a full-time person for you. And then they get to hire someone under them. And that's hopefully the funnel that it creates.
I love how you're thinking. And in that, because I've gotten to watch, I mean, I grew up with social media too, I feel like in that sense, but also see how leadership now looks at it in certain spaces. You have to start teaching that the ROI on a position is going to look completely different for that role in year one, especially in year two, than a frontline major gift fundraiser. They can't be equitable. I mean, you have to have these different seats that are doing different strategies to support that, you know? So I'm a big torchbearer of that idea too.
Well, and the idea of a major gifts officer, right? Mm-hmm. We are entering the generations of millennials and Gen Z, and we donate very differently than the boomers and older. We don't have endowments, most likely, for you, but we will give to multiple organizations multiple times or be a reoccurring giver. There was a really interesting stat I saw about last year that 3 out of 4 millennials donated. Wow. That's incredible. If you don't have a plan in place to ask us, right, then we're probably not going to give to you. Or if we don't see you, if you're not in our purview, if you're not sharing consistently, then we're not going to find you and you're just missing out on our dollars.
I love that. Well, I love that you started with saying, what's your goal, and then you're going to go backtrack and start to accomplish that goal. You just can't start off with whatever. You need to have a very specific direction. Could you give some examples of good goals? They don't have to be very specific, but just where do you start? What is a reasonable goal to create for an executive director in this space?
Yeah, of course. So one of the top ones to start with that helps accomplish a lot of other goals is increase our website traffic, right? If you have Google Analytics, you can go in and you can see month over month, year over year, what is our website traffic? and what's a decent percentage that we think we could increase that. And then you can look at acquisition. Where is our website traffic coming from? How are people getting here? And I guarantee you social media is one of the top 3 ways.
Oh,
and then you can look into social media. This like blew the mind of a national organization I worked with last year. And I said, social media is actually neck and neck with your direct traffic. And she's like, what? And I was like, if you invested a little bit, I bet you that would skyrocket. And she's like, what? Yeah. And the genesis of that conversation then became afterwards, can you write me a full-time job description to hire a digital strategist? But that would be one of the goals. And then how do you make sure that social media, when you click in, you can see, is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Twitter? Wherever, which platforms are generating traffic for us and which ones aren't? Mm-hmm. And if they're not, stop being on them and invest your time and the resources in the ones that are. So I think website traffic is a good goal to increase. Another one is, what is your revenue from social media channels? Facebook is a massive donation driver. So you can easily set up a goal for your social. If you started with $0, $500 is a win.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then $500, turn that into $1,000. And then you slowly grow that. That's one. Another goal could be increasing your email subscribers.
Oh, so we're here for that. This is a huge untapped area. Keep going.
Email newsletters. So do you have an area that's easy on your website and something like a value add that they get whenever they join your email, like a quick download on who you are, something that you can share, anything like that. And all of that can be pushed from social content. Yeah. So those are 3. I would say website traffic, raising funds through social channels, and increasing your emails.
Such great hacks.
Such good hacks. And it also makes me just feel like we cannot, again, treat everyone equally in the sense of communicating and engaging with them in the same way. My mother loves Facebook. You know, she posts on Facebook all the time. Her friends are all posting on Facebook. You know, I will say something about Facebook as a Gen Xer to Julie, and she's like, I don't know, I haven't really been on there in a couple weeks. And I'm like, wow.
Not our place.
It's not
Especially
her home. And so I think just like diversifying how your engagement strategy, especially this digital strategy, is going to be so interesting. And I even think the storylines that are going to come out of it are going to be very interesting, because it's such a broad place where you can cast a wide net and ask a question and get so much feedback that you could never get if you were just sitting one-on-one across the coffee shop with someone when you need a really quick answer or a series of answers. So I'm loving this conversation. I think you've given some awesome tips already. I'm really curious about how fundraisers can broaden their donor base via social media. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And like to your point about the different generations, and this kind of goes to broadening the donor base, is different people are using different platforms. So you need to think about, who are you trying to reach, right? Mm-hmm. What is the messaging that's going to reach them? What are the visuals that are going to reach them and make them pause? We're all in this constant scrolling behavior. What graphic makes you go, oh, wow, that's cool. And then you scroll a little bit further. Wow, there's a really impactful story there. I'm going to read that caption. Wow, I'm interested. Yeah, I'm going to click that link in bio, right? It's being thoughtful about crafting that post with understanding, what do you want that person to feel? What do you want them to do? Is it reaching the right person? So that's really one way to broaden or to shift your donor base, is to change how you're writing and drafting your content. On the simplest level. And then I am a big supporter of ads, because you can get extremely targeted in your ad content, and really share specific messages with specific target audiences. I mean, if anybody's played around with Ads Manager, they know what I'm saying, but you can target people who are parents that have kids 3 to 5 that just moved, that live in Kentucky. I'm talking, you can get
It's like
with an
all the things
income.
that creep us out.
I was like,
really
it like makes the hairs on my back of my neck stand up. But
Yeah.
thank you for someone tracking that if it helps, us do more good. So, I mean, yeah, that's a very interesting conversation.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one way if you're really trying to reach a specific demographic is you can, and you don't have to do, I think there's also this misnomer that you have to do a big spend. That's not true. That's not true at all. You can do $25 and see how it plays out for you.
Yeah. And since everybody, I mean, with the retention as it is in our industry, which is basically you're losing more donors than you're gaining every year, I mean, there should be something on autopilot acquiring and just for exposure purposes, because you can do it for so cheap, just to have that out there. So I think that is a great piece of advice.
And the best, like a quick campaign sequence that I always like to suggest is if you're trying to just raise awareness and reach a new demographic is to have a video. Have your kind of sizzle video that plays, because then you can create a second audience based upon people who watched a percentage of that video. And then you target those people who are now warm leads with a carousel post or a blog post about you. And then now they're getting to learn about you more. And then for anybody who engaged with that post, now they really know you, then you ask them for money. That's
Dana Snyder.
What in the heck? I feel like that was just like
Everybody
the way
can
that
do
we
that.
think about a welcome series. Like we talked about this with Gabe Cooper, Virtuous, a couple weeks back. It's like everybody can think about what a welcome packet looks like. But that right there was just a seriously good hack on how to have a digital welcome series that is smart and intuitive, that does awareness, that translates to, I mean, I'm just... That is amazing. Well done. Great hack. That was worth the price of admission.
Okay, great.
Thank you for joining us today. It's been a joy.
We need to be billed for that.
So, okay, Dana,
everyone go try. Do that right now.
Yeah, seriously. And I love the word sizzle. Anytime we can say the word sizzle video.
It's because you used to love a good
video.
Western sizzling back in the day. John's a vegetarian. He doesn't eat meat. So
No, but their mashed potatoes are very good. So, okay, can we transition to talking about virtual events, right? The buzzword of the industry that really wasn't too big of a thing until this last year. But what are the things that you're seeing that have worked really well? And what are the things that actually make you cringe? I actually would love to hear some of Dana's cringeworthy moments it doesn't have to be an event, but I'm here for it.
I love virtual events, obviously, because I'm a digital, but because you have the world to be a part of your event. You're no longer restricted to 4 walls or your geographic locations or your ability to travel. So I love them. And it's been really interesting to watch. I produced a virtual event for a Chamber of Commerce. It was their Small Business Awards. And this one I thought was so great. Traditionally, it was at the Hyatt and they had like 200 people that would attend. And that was it, right? The event happens, it's summed up. Great. You got your award, you walk away.
Everybody's happy, typically.
We did. And how we didn't make this cringeworthy. One of my cringiest things that I don't like is if a whole event is pre-recorded. Boring. I know that people think it's like beautifully executed and the videos look great. People know it's pre-recorded and they're going to tune out, or they're gonna be like, I'm not even going to watch this thing. So what was so fun is we had some pre-recorded elements that integrated the sponsors, that would announce the honorees. And then in real time, we had on backstage, we had all of the finalists, and then we brought on the winner, and they were like, oh, like it was so fun for them.
Oh.
And then because it was open and it was a live stream, and thank goodness we had 2 community managers who are managing the comments, and we should have had more. There was 900 comments in this 45-minute thing because people were just so excited. Their grandma in North Dakota could watch them, although the Small Business Awards were in Florida, right? So anyone who was nominated was inviting everyone to be a part of this exciting event. So needs to be a mixture of live and pre-recorded and as interactive as possible. We had live raffles being given away throughout the event for engagement purposes. So it could be like, I see you, Julie. Julie, you are the winner of X, Y, and Z thing, right?
Can you imagine that pre-recorded? How funny that would be. Number 42.
Crickets.
Crickets.
Exactly.
I mean,
So like, that's one of the biggest things.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of events go from what they were in person and trying to be copied onto virtual, and that does not work. So I
Thank
love
you for
there's
giving
so
us
many
permission to let those go. We are blessing and releasing that as a strategy.
You may leave. Yes. Hoppier is a really cool platform to involve sponsors. I don't know if you guys have heard of it before, but essentially they create a digital credit card that you can co-brand with a sponsor, and you can pick a bunch of different vendors, or the sponsor can be a vendor that your participants can use live during the event. So if you are going to do a cooking session, I'm making this up, and I live in Atlanta, so Publix could be a sponsor. It's a grocery store for those of you that don't know.
We love that grocery store.
Of course you do.
Yeah, you could, pub subs are a thing. You could have Publix, and you could say, okay, our sponsor is going to provide $20 to every participant, and that's part of their package. And everyone can go out before the event and purchase all the ingredients they need for our virtual meal making event. I just made that up. So that's a cool way to involve sponsors. Snap Bar. So Snap Bar, and I've booked them before for in-person events, is a photo booth company. And we all love a good photo booth when we're live in person.
Oh, we do.
They've
I love
created
the name of it. Makes me hungry.
Yeah.
It literally, I'm like, it
not snack.
Snack bar?
Oh, it's snack.
Becky thought it was snack bar.
Someone's a little hungry over there.
I am. I literally thought of
Can
the
you
movie
get her a
theater
snack
counter.
bar?
Please. All right, I'll drink my Diet Coke. Shelby, drink your juice. Keep going, Dana. There's my Steel Magnolias quote.
You're all good. Snap Bar. Do a little snap. They have a virtual photo booth. That's super cool. That literally there's a URL. So there's no app or anything that you send out to participants, and they can take their own little selfie and put custom banners and stickers, and then they can share it out as if they were there in person. So that's a cool one. And then I've just seen so many awesome virtual platforms come out. A couple of my favorites are GiveButter. Hopin and StreamYard just did a partnership. Actually, Hopin acquired StreamYard just this month. GiveCloud is a new one. Run the World is a good one. And what I like about all of them is that they are really interactive, and they provide engagement opportunities instead of like, please, no more Zooms.
Yeah. Zoom paralysis and fatigue is real. And
Just
there's
praying
no way to
everybody's
get
muted.
around it, really, because, I mean, we're still in this pandemic. But I love that there are some different platforms because I think the engagement piece is what I want, and I think that anybody would want that's in community and wants to do things together with like-minded individuals and communities.
Yeah.
So I think these are a great list of resources.
Awesome. Yeah. And I would say the most important thing to think about is at the end of the day, who are your participants? Who's your audience? And what makes sense? What do they want to do? What are they interested in? And put together a compelling event based upon that. And then you have your donation aspect to it.
I love
make
that.
it
And
sound so simple.
I feel like as we've had conversations about virtual events too, it's that. I mean, it's not, don't copy and paste somebody's event. Make something that shines a light on your mission and your unique way. Make it different. People are going to get really burnt out of the Zoom gala. Like, it can't be that, it needs to be something new and innovative.
Yeah, and definitely
Yeah,
don't
absolutely.
copy off somebody in your own community, in your own sphere, because you're going to be sharing donors, and you want to give donors a unique experience. They love your mission for a specific reason. So go back to the heart of that mission, find what makes you unique, and find a way to turn a lens on it and make it fun. I mean, I think that's part of the thing about virtual events is I don't want to do them because it doesn't seem like I'm going to go and have a very good time. But I mean, I've got to tell you, I've heard from a lot of nonprofits this year that made it incredibly fun. I mean, I've even seen like some wine pairings and cooking. I mean, you talk about the cooking class, you made that up, but it's like I have seen, you know, fundraisers where you pair the wine, you make the meal, you have a sommelier come in, and it's like that to me would be extremely fun. We're looking for anything to do with friends, you know, right now because we're staying at home. So
yeah, there was a really cool one here in Atlanta where they rented out a local drive-in theater, and they had like the sponsor, it wasn't the sponsor, but they had sponsor branded like popcorn bags, right? And so somebody would come around and deliver you like your little goodies, and then you would watch like a little video about them, but then they would put on something actually entertaining that they thought that their supporter base wanted to watch.
Brilliant.
That's brilliant.
Love
I
it.
love it.
Okay, so I want to go back to something you said at the very beginning when you were talking about hiring a social media or digital specialist, and you said you had walked through a couple of steps for that, and I wonder if you could give some advice to our audience about how, if they're really curious and intent on expanding that digital footprint this year, what are some steps that they can take to hire a really capable social media or digital specialist?
So I always like to ask them to do a little bit of work for you. So although a lot of people say that they have digital experience, so
they have a Facebook account.
My grandma does. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think it's a real thing. I see it on resumes.
Totally
Yeah.
a social media expert, right? Like that will come up a lot. And so you trust them, right? I would ask them to say, great, looking at who we are, can you please draft 2 sample posts for us that explain our mission? Maybe do 1 post that's asking for a donation. Can you create that graphic for us so that you can get a sense of what it looks like? And then I really like if the executive director, and we kind of talked about this at the beginning, if the executive director or somebody in leadership can outline 2 to 3 of their business goals, and then ask the potential hire to say, okay, based upon those goals, what would your strategies be? What would you do for that? And then I always like doing kind of a fun one, which is our goal is to raise $10,000. How would you get us there? If no expenses bared, right? Sky's the limit. What would you do? So just a little bit of kind of like a brainstorming activity. And a question I get asked a lot too is, where do I find these people?
Right. No.
And I mean, how I hire is LinkedIn and Facebook groups have become very, very common in hot spots to find people looking for hire.
Love it. Well, we can link up some of those things in the show notes too, because I don't know where I would start with a Facebook group of where to find that, but I'm sure you could point us to a couple that we can share. Okay, Dana, everything at the end comes back to philanthropy here. I know you've been surrounded by so many causes, and we get to be witness to so many stories. Is there one that's just kind of, stuck with you over the years and it kind of keeps you motivated and loving this industry?
Yeah, I would say probably the one that got me involved from the start. So I was a part of, are you familiar with dance marathons?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Julie was a part of one. Yeah.
Well, I just went as a participant, but it's huge at OU. It's they love it down here. So I went every year with my sorority, but
benefiting
yes,
our children's hospital.
Very familiar.
Yes. So I was on I wasn't at the time, but I went to University of Central Florida in Orlando. And I was sitting in like our student union area in like a study space. And this like cute little like 3-year-old girl comes walking by with her mom. And I was like, what's happening? And like a group was forming in the corner. And I was just listening while I was doing some schoolwork. And the little girl had like 4 heart transplants.
Oh.
And I by the end of it, I was like in the group and I was listening. And she was talking about her experience at Arnold Palmer Hospital, one of the Children's Miracle Network hospitals, and listening to the story of this adorable little girl who has beat all the odds, and then understanding the costs of it's $100,000 for an ambulance, right? Like understanding what you think are little things and the expenses that they are, and what the families go through, and how the small touches that a children's hospital provides to help cope them through and bring them through that time together and just make it more comfortable, was incredible. So I immediately was like, sign me up. And I was on the executive team for my whole time when I was in school. And it's been really neat to see the program grow. When I was there, I think the largest amount we raised, which is kind of crazy because UCF is, I think, right now the largest university in the country. It teeters between 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Dang, I didn't know that. That's
Oh, yeah. I was going to say one of
yeah.
the Florida schools like rocks
Wow.
it.
It's
every
always
year.
UCF.
Yeah.
I thought last
Yeah.
I heard you were number 1. So that's
So awesome.
It's
a
pretty
shock.
big. So we were the babies in fundraising. So I think we raised like $85,000, but now they're over $2 million a year.
Wow.
And it was
gosh.
really awesome to like set that, right? And set the processes in place for it to continue. Wow, if I can talk, to scale. And so I think that kind of just always hits home back. And I think what's incredible about that is I was 18 at the time, right? I was just starting school, but it was such an impressionable moment. And I think that's why it's so important. If you have, and I support Children's Miracle Network to this day. So if you can find a donor who's 18 years old, I promise you, when they're 31, they're still going to be supporting you.
That is such a great
Wow.
story. And I feel like you summed it up, at least as it jived with my thoughts while you were talking about that. And it's also proof to me that you can be 18 years old and work on establishing a legacy. You know, because these are how proud that must make you to know that you are a part of building something that annually is infusing $2 million, you know, to a cause of which you are so now passionate about because, again, you were able to see it. You were able to touch it. I mean, you could probably go talk to that little girl and her mother and have a one-on-one conversation about what the experience is like. So for those that think they're wasting their time.
Now she's a teenager.
Right? For anybody who thinks they're wasting their time because social media, you know, doesn't get us anywhere, these are the opportunities that you are missing out on. And there will be nonprofits that will show up in a big way to talk to these people, engage them, and bring them in as donors. So excellent story. Love that so much. I want to ask you about your one good thing. And this is our final question we always ask all our guests, maybe a hack or something that somebody could take with them today. What's your one good thing, Dana?
Ooh, one good thing. Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, I'm going to do a simple one.
Great.
Love it.
Go back and look at your website. Open it right now. Can you find your mission? Can you find any information about your relevant impact? And how long or how many clicks does it take you to be able to donate?
Wow.
Mic drop.
I have a feeling we all have some work to do.
I feel like we need to go get in our website really quickly.
No, I was about to think like, I don't know where our mission is on our website.
Everyone listening just sighed. They're like, okay, here we go.
Okay, Dana, we'll do it. We'll sharpen ourselves.
And I'm just going to have to call Dana out. That was 3 good things, which we appreciate, but we need 1. I'm just kidding. So that was great.
It all wraps together.
That's a great
I think
good thing.
though that speaks to everybody just needs to get started. I know it feels like a mountain if you don't have a staff member or if you're not ready for that step yet, but everybody can do something today to make your website engage better and convert better. And those are some great hacks.
Well, because that's where it starts. It's if you have the best social media ever, but where you're sending people to fails you, then it's not going to convert. So the home base has to be great first before you ramp up social.
And to your original point, our websites and our socials are our storefronts right now. I love how you said that. Yeah. And we don't want to bring someone into our space. It's almost like having guests over and your house is messy. Like we need to clean up our house. We need to put the best impression and the best examples of who we are and what we stand for. And now is the time to be doing it. Invest. Okay.
Okay. We got to connect people to you, Dana, because they are going to be wanting to talk to you. So how can people find you? We've been bragging that you're on Instagram. You should totally follow Dana on Instagram.
I did during this recording.
Awesome. But would you point us to your social handles and your website so people can connect with you?
Sure. So website is positiveequation.com, all spelled out with the 2 E's. And Instagram is Positive Equation with 1 E.
Oh.
And Facebook, I actually have,
3
if people are
E's.
interested in, I have a Facebook group. Facebook, it's social media, a nonprofit social media marketers.
Ooh, I love it. So we will link that up so you can find it in the show notes
Yeah.
section for sure.
Dana, you're a good human. I think you are really intuitive, and I love when I hear people who have such a cool start in the philanthropic world. You've had this incredible experience with Dance Marathon. You're pouring into the industry. Thank you for doing that and for sharpening us all. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having me. You guys are good humans too. I appreciate you. Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Take care.
Good humans find each other.
That's
They
right. We
do.
will. Community is everything.